everyone. Good afternoon. My name is Jeremy Holston, and I am the director of the LGBT Chamber of Commerce of Illinois, and my pronouns are he, him, his. Thank you all so much for joining us today for our 2020 Illinois LGBTQ Business Summit. A huge thank you to our sponsors for their partnership and commitment to supporting the growth and development of LGBTQ and ally-owned businesses. Those sponsors are Federal Home Loan Bank of Chicago, CNA, Bank of America, and Baker McKenzie. For those of you unfamiliar with us, the LGBTCC serves as the premier voice for nearly 50,000 LGBTQ business owners across Illinois. We serve a membership of nearly 300 member businesses, including more than 30 corporations, and provide them all with access to marketing, networking, professional development, and advocacy, including access to the LGBT Business Enterprise Certification through our affiliation with the National LGBT Chamber of Commerce. We're able to do the work that we do because of the dedication of our 11 volunteer board members and incredible staff. A huge thank you to our administrative assistant, Allie Eck, for her work in creating today's presentation and the countless other great content that you see from our chamber throughout the year. Before we get started, I'd like to share a few quick reminders. Please be sure to use the chat section, share thoughts, ask questions as we go throughout the conversation. And also be sure to order lunch from our participating restaurants, including Carnival, Drew's on Halstead, or America's Dog and Burger. Again, remember, if you email your receipt to me at jholston@lgbtcc.com, you can be reimbursed up to $10 per order. For the next sessions to follow, be sure to use the Zoom background as a way to promote your business, and be sure to cut your camera on so we can see those beautiful, bright, smiling faces. As you all know, today's workshops are designed to help small business owners be stronger, smarter, and innovative in working with our sponsors and the many corporate, government, and small businesses that are looking to engage with diverse partners. Please be sure to hang out throughout the day for our networking session starting at 3:55 p.m. And as you all know and are aware of in your own businesses, COVID-19 has had a great impact to businesses of all sizes, zip codes, and all communities. I look forward to our pitch competition at 5 p.m., where we will learn how local small businesses are addressing some of these issues. Right now, I'm excited to begin our conversation on looking ahead government contracting, which will be led by Jaemie and Neely, Manager of Small Business Development and Outreach at the Chicago Transit Authority. I'm super excited to have Jaemie with us as a longtime friend and partner to the Chamber, and now representing CTA as a brand new corporate partner to our organization. Jaemie will lead this panel of government procurement and certification specialists on the best tips and practices for LGBTQ and ally-owned businesses looking to increase and expand their opportunities with government entities. While government focused, many of these tips and thoughts can be applied to private sector contract best practices as well. As a quick reminder, we are awarding prizes throughout the day for guests that post on social media. We will have 5 total winners throughout the day, so be on the lookout for me to share those winners during our pitch competition. So be sure to tag us on Facebook at LGBT Chamber of Commerce of Illinois, and also be sure to use our hashtag LGBTCC. With that, I will now turn it over to Jaemie to take it from here. So thank you so much, Jaemie, for your partnership, your leadership, and leading today's conversation.
Absolutely, and thank you, Jeremy. And thank you to the LGBTQ Chamber of Commerce here in Chicago area. Good morning, and thank you all for joining the 2020 Illinois LGBTQ Business Summit. And a very special thank you for attending the program kickoff Working with Government panel. I must say I am extremely excited to be among some very experienced diversity and procurement leaders this afternoon. And before we dive into today's discussion and dialogue about working with the government, let's get brief introductions from our panelists. I could possibly do it, but I would probably keep you all here all day rambling about the good things I've learned with working with some of them over the last several years. So we'll start with you, Jonathan.
Thanks, Jaemie, and thanks so much for all your hard work in Chicago with all of our diverse communities. It's great to be here. Good afternoon, or morning, after, who knows? It's COVID. Where are we? Hi, everyone. My name is Jonathan Lovitz. My pronouns are he and him, and I'm the Senior Vice President of the National LGBT Chamber of Commerce, the umbrella organization for LGBT business organizations such as the outstanding affiliate here in the Chicago area, the Illinois LGBTQ Chamber. And a big shout out to Jeremy and everyone who helped make today happen. It's not an easy feat, especially in this crazy world of Zoom. So good job, everyone. At the NGLCC, I lead all external relations. So our government and public policy work, expanding the use of the exclusive LGBT business enterprise certification, not just with the entire Fortune 500, but now in an ever-growing number of cities, states, municipalities, utilities, on and on and on until we have full federal inclusion of the LGBT community alongside other diverse and minority business owners. We get to represent the interests of 1.4 million LGBT business owners and the more than $1.7 trillion that we put into the economy every year. And that's only going to continue to go up as more opportunity comes our way through initiatives like this, as well as a pushback and dismantling of the decades of systemic homophobia, transphobia, and of course, systemic racism that has hurt far too many in our community. So thrilled to be talking with you all and really appreciate the opportunity to create more resources for the LGBT business community. Thank you.
Thank you, Jonathan. Shannon Andrews.
Hello, thank you so much. Thank you, Jaemie, and I want to give a special shout out to Jerome. To Jeremy. We were just on a panel together on Monday, and so I'm certain that he is tired of hearing my spiel, but I'm so grateful for his partnership. Jeremy has really done a lot of work on behalf of the organization, working with us on several initiatives that we'll be talking a bit more about a little later. My name is Shannon Andrews, and I'm the Chief Procurement Officer for the City of Chicago. In a nutshell, I am responsible for the purchase of goods and services, roughly a little over $3 billion annually. We purchase on behalf of roughly 30 user departments. Oftentimes, I think it's worth reminding people who we don't purchase for as the City of Chicago, because I think when people hear it, they think of all things city, but we have sister agencies who have their own contracting authority. So when you think about our friends from Jaemie's organization, the Chicago Transit Authority, CTA, Chicago Public Schools, Chicago City Colleges, the Chicago Park District, the Chicago Housing Authority, while all a part of the City of Chicago family, all of those entities are considered their own municipal purchasing authority. And so today I will be talking to you very specifically about what it means to do business here at the City of Chicago, representing those 30 user departments, which is everything from the airports. We do the purchasing on behalf of O'Hare and Midway Airport, all the way down to our animal care and control department. We buy horse food, we buy pins, we buy toilet paper, you name it. That $3 billion represents a lot of contracting opportunity. And so we're super thrilled to be here with our partners, super happy to be here with the national organization, big fan of Jonathan's. And again, I want to thank Jeremy for having us be a part of this conversation today. So thank you.
Thank you, Shannon. And Pedro, Pinedra.
Hey, Jaemie, thank you so much for the intro, and thank you everyone for being here. Also, Jeremy, thank you so much for allowing us to participate. I'm I know this is the second time that I do this with the LGBTQ Chamber of Commerce, so it's really an honor to be part of this and to share some information about the state of Illinois procurement and certification process. So I am the outreach coordinator for the Business Enterprise Program. And what we do is we tend to promote the certification process with the state of Illinois. So, we try to get as many women-owned businesses, minority-owned businesses, veteran-owned businesses, and people with disability-owned businesses to try to jump on board and, try to get as I like to say, a piece of the pie of the contract with state dollars. So there's only a two-team personnel within our department. It's myself and Irma Lopez. I'm sure some of our panelists have worked with her, and she's done a tremendous job with the program itself. So it's an honor working with her, and it's an honor working with everyone on the panel so that we can try to promote this diversity going forward, and hopefully trying to get the LGBTQ community on board as well with the state. So that's something that I know my manager and I have spoke about. So we hope to expand on that conversation and try to get everyone on board to, as I said, get a piece of that pie. So looking forward to this. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you, Pedro. Thank you all. Very great panel. With all of the hard work that you all do, I can't imagine when you're sleeping these days. So thank you. And my name is Jaemie Neely. I am the manager of the Small Business Development and Outreach team here at CTA. The diversity programs at CTA is very committed to increasing our participation of socially and economically disadvantaged businesses. We do this by supporting quasi our customers, one being our CTA internal end users, where we advocate on behalf of our small businesses when and where there may be opportunities. Two, our prime contractors, supporting them in identifying and connecting with small, diverse businesses. And three, our small businesses and DBEs, disadvantaged business enterprises, where we're assisting you all with the know-how, if you will, to navigate through the CTA's procurement process. We want to make sure that you're procurement ready. And very lastly, but absolutely not least, we can only do this by leveraging the strong relationships with our advocacy and assist agencies like the LGBT Chamber of Commerce. Some of our diversity programs include certification and DBE goal setting, outreach and procurement events, mentor protege agreements, workforce initiatives, and a host of educational programming. Thanks again, and what a pleasure to be today's moderator. We'll get right to it. So to my panelists, this question was a new one other than we prepared for, but I'm sure you guys are tackling it very well. But as we think about working with the government and public procurement, it's almost this parallel concept of diversity. The world, corporations, government, workforce, and even forecasted demographics suggest there's going to be an increase of diversity. The minorities will soon become the new majority. Probably a great result of all of your efforts of the LGBT Chamber of Commerce and national programming and other advocacy agency and affinity groups. Whether it's women, Hispanic, African American, LGBT, whichever your advocacy agency or focus is, I want to know from you panelists, why do you think that this is important? Not only to have these independent affinity groups and advocacy agencies and efforts, but also how do we create diversity within diversity so that all women aren't just here, all African American groups and all LGBT groups aren't isolated? How, and if you think it's important, how do we create that diversity within diversity? I'll pick on you, Jonathan, first.
Uh-oh. I know particularly Pedro and Shannon can tell you about the great work that's already being done to highlight B2B opportunities that really do promote intersectional achievement. And I think that that's something that we're all committed to. You know, this question would have had such a different answer even just a year ago, because we are living in a time where, you know, we have always affirmed that Black Lives Matter, that Black queer lives matter, that communities who have not had that seat at the table or that access to the plate to get a piece of the pie deserve it. You know, we say it often, we all pay 100% of the taxes and deserve 100% of the opportunities because of it, since it is our taxpayer dollars that pay for these government contracts. So it's about fairness, but it's also about equity. We can't talk about these MWBE programs out of one side of our mouth and out of the other, congratulate ourselves for how well they're doing, if there are still ever, communities out there who feel like there's just no seat at the table for them. And that's one of the reasons why we're so proud to work with local affiliates like Jaemie's and each of the organizations here to focus on intersectional voices. That fact that these programs so often, and some of you might remember from some of the contentious hearings that we had with the city of Chicago about, well, doesn't this help just gay white men because a Black woman could come into this program as a certified woman or a certified MWBE or whatever it might be. And we have to think about the systemic problems that have kept that first generation African-American trans woman from coming to the table before, despite having those open opportunities, because they have faced transphobia in the Black community. They have faced misogyny from men who have said, you're not welcome here. They have faced a myriad of issues that have kept them from living their full truth and being everything that they can be in business. And that's why these certifications matter so much. And that's why some of the teaming that we talk about matters so much. A lot of these, especially the communities that have had goals and particularly the federal goals set for decades, are still far from achieving everything that they should achieve. To ensure parity and equality of equity for particularly Black and women business owners. So one of the things that we can do is help make sure that as the opportunities up top continue to grow and continue to be funded, that we are unbundling the contracts underneath them to make sure that growing up and coming diverse owned businesses have an access to that piece of the pie. And as we talk about it, we have to remember it's not like everyone's pie shrinks. The more we commit to putting into the system, to opening up these contracts so everyone has a fair shot to win on merit, then the pie gets bigger. It's as big as we collectively want to bake it. And I was so proud to hear Mayor Lightfoot and many of the aldermen say that we have to stop thinking about the pie being this big. If we all commit to making it bigger and there being more opportunities, then we all win. Then there's pie for everyone. And more importantly, I think one of the most important things that we can all focus on is the more diverse communities, period, at the table is good for all of us as taxpayers. There is money left. If there's more diverse communities bidding for contracts with solid, developed companies behind them, then that means competition and innovation surge. And when they go up, bid prices go down, which means more money left over for your kids' schools and the firemen who protect our businesses and everything in between. So there is a win in making sure, as we all say, recognizing that diversity is good for business. And what is city procurement if not just a really well-run corporate procurement supply chain housed within our city and state governments? So we each live the commitment to lifting up those intersectional diverse voices so that we are never just in one room. And the best practice for that is making sure, as diverse chambers and even diverse employee resource groups hold their space, that it's not just the LGBT group meets every third Wednesday of the month and then the women's group meets the following Friday, and et cetera, et cetera. If we're not all holding space together, then we're not working together. We have to make sure that that when we're having Women's History Month celebration, that the voices of queer and Black women are at the forefront of that, and vice versa. That allies are showcased as part of LGBTQ work, because not only are they mentors and leaders in the business community that can help accelerate the growth of an LGBTBE, they're also fighting for their own opportunities. And the more we can fight together, the harder it is to ever pick any one of us apart. Sorry, I went long. I'll stop there. Thank you.
Wow, Jaemie. Well, Jaemie, close the panel. It's done. Thank you, Jonathan. He mentioned everything we were going to talk about.
No. I am surrounded by brilliance on this Zoom. It's all you from here.
No, excellent points. Thank you. A couple of things that I got from that, Jonathan, is teaming. Teaming for contracts is huge. Even peer-to-peer, right? So if you're one affinity group versus the other, you guys come together and create joint ventures and teaming to go after these opportunities. I think that's huge. Another point that you mentioned, Jonathan, is the more diverse, the better for your taxpayers. we're all public entities, and you're absolutely right. How we operate and how we purchase is in consideration of our taxpayers' dollars, right? All the time. And so when we consider that internally, I think that warrants a lot of diversity within the diversity, as I mentioned. Anyone else want to tackle this question?
Yeah, I don't know. Sorry, Shannon, you're going to say something. I think, Jonathan, yeah, you just covered it all well. Everything that you said is pretty much on point, right? But the way I tend to see stuff is more like on the social perspective side. And it's kind of strange how this whole year has just been, a crosswind of blazes of everything from, businesses closing down, businesses going down, and, everything basically going upside down. But it seems like because of what's going on now, a lot of the huge corporations are taking notice to that. So I've been reading a lot of articles, and I've been seeing a lot of articles online about how these, like Microsoft, for example, they're trying to see what they can do or how they can use supplier diversity or how they can get a lot of small business owned, a lot of owners who run small businesses, how they can get into their pool and trying to kind of put an impact on what they're trying to do, So, I mean, who would have thought that Microsoft is now thinking about that when they kind of should have thought about that a long time ago, right? But it's kind of, I don't want to say it is important, but it's very impactful of what's happening today's times, these last couple of 6 months, how it's actually doing a lot of impact to a lot of these small businesses. So I think it's kind of like unfortunate that it had to happen for these huge corporations to now look into these small businesses and say, hey, how can we help out? What can we do to, save their business, especially in the African American community or the Hispanic community? Those are the communities that are well underserved, and now they're trying to get rescued, and it's a little bit late. But I think we should give them credit because they're trying to do what they can to try to save them. So it's kind of a huge paradigm shift in these last 6 months that now they're kind of opening up their eyes and saying, hey, maybe these small business owners can do something. So I think this is the right opportunity and the right time for business owners to say, I don't want to shut down. I want to keep going. I need to keep going. And I'm hearing that a lot from a lot of our BP vendors. It's like, I'm ready to give up. I'm ready to shut down, but I'm kind of in the cusp of telling them, don't do it. There's actually grants out there. There's loans out there to help you keep going. Maybe you got to think differently of your business. Maybe you got to shift it differently to keep going. So I think it's just this whole time that we've been going through this upside down and crazy upheaval of COVID that's really making a lot of people think differently, especially big corporations, and how they can participate in and help out a lot of these small vendors. And like I said, it's unfortunate, but we got to take advantage of this time. We got to take advantage of this time. And I think if we don't take advantage of this time, then small businesses are not going to grow effectively. And we have to keep helping them. We have to keep giving them resources. So that's what we're trying to do on our side on BP, how to promote that and how to make that happen, how to have these businesses grow. So at the hard times, but in the challenging times, but I think there are times of opportunity. And it's kind of in the business way, you got to think like, what are the opportunities on these bad, challenging times? And I think that's what makes the business grow a lot bigger.
Thank you, Pedro. Times of opportunity, totally agree. Leverage, it's an unfortunate event, right? But here's an opportunity for us to leverage the attention and the commitments and obligations to some of these corporations and public agencies. Shannon, before we go on to the next question, did you have some additional comments?
No, I certainly echo what both John and Pedro shared. I do think in terms of keeping in alignment, I think Jonathan spoke so eloquently about the importance of advocacy as we talk about how do we diversify the diversity. I think that government, procurement, government, these types of programs are no different than I think what's happening in the larger universe in terms of, I think people are and organizations are being smart about strategically partnering to, I think we're uniquely appreciating that there's strength in numbers. I think we see that happening in advocacy in all things. I mean, the efforts that are being put into trying to mobilize the vote of like-minded people. I think the advocacy in terms of looking at police reform and the social justice system. And I think that that is no different here in the space that we're in, that as long as we continue to appreciate that there is strength in numbers and that we're all fighting for the same thing, and that on many levels, the success of the least of us is the success of all of us. And so I do want to point out that, again, for those of you who are members of the organization, you should be really proud of the work that the local group is doing here, because we all serve collectively on a partnership called the GPC Forum, which is Government Procurement and Compliance Organizations, where not only are government entities have a seat at the table, but assist agencies and chambers of commerce come to the table to talk about quite frankly, to find where there is symmetry and commonality, both in terms of success, but as well as challenges, because there's no way around it. We have to be more strategic. And so in addition to the advocacy and what feels right and what feels good, we have to talk about, to the extent that we change laws, rules, and regulations, to ensure that there is a space for everyone to participate and that it's open and that it's fair. Equally as important is making certain that we get people ready for it. Because to be clear, as stewards of taxpayers' dollars, it's not enough that you're good at what you do and that you represent a community that we care about. You've got to be prepared for what it means to deliver goods and services for government agencies. And so I think some of the work that we're doing is trying to make certain that beyond just advocating for making certain that the programs are inclusive, that we've got programs, workshops, tools, and resources to make certain that people are ready, so that when the door peeps open, we kick it down and it becomes wide open, that we don't have people standing on the outside looking in saying, what now, what next? And so one of the great things about these types of partnerships is that many hands make for light work. I don't think that any of the groups of people where there have been disparities between the haves and the have-nots are not accustomed to the hard work of it and don't appreciate that in addition to advocating, in addition to knocking and kicking down doors, we've also got to make certain that we've got a strong support system for our businesses to ensure that they have capital, to make certain that they have back office support, to make certain that they understand what the processes are around being partners with these government entities. And that's why I think things like this summit and conversations about where and how do we enter it's not enough to leave this conversation feeling good about it or discouraged about it or like there's lots of hard work. You need an action plan. Like, we need to be clear. If you need this, we should go here. If you want to be a part of the advocacy element of it, let's talk in that arm. We have to create these spaces where people can do a multitude of things, all with an eye towards moving the collective in the right direction. So we're super excited about the partnership, because I want to be clear, it won't happen with us doing it alone. There's just no extra credit in recreating the wheel, and one person being successful without us all being successful, it won't work. And I think that we are uniquely seeing that play out across a myriad of things right now. And so I'm happy to know that we here locally at least have got a group of people who aren't, to Pedro's point, just starting the conversation. We've been having the conversation, and now it's about building on the momentum of what's happening in the larger society. So
Perfectly said, as you always are.
you're so kind. Thank you, sir. I didn't even pay him for that.
Thank you, Shannon. And what I got from that is together we're better, right? Together we're better in numbers. Which actually is a good segue to the next question. We talked about diversity. When people hear diversity, public procurement, immediately they think certifications, right? So let's talk about why it's important to have certifications, right? So we understand that the government kind of mandates diverse spend. Each of the agencies have their own specific goals of what that looks like and which certification they accept. But ideally, the objective of the certification program with all public agencies, particularly here locally, is to create more opportunities for more diverse firms to get in the pipeline of doing business with us, right? So if you will, Shannon, can you tell me a little bit about the certification with the City of Chicago? How do you leverage it? And what are their benefits?
Absolutely. First of all, I think it's always worth noting, and especially on the back of some of the work that we've done with the Chamber, the importance of having programs that can be supported. If you want to talk about the importance of the kinds of things that, again, are going on in the larger conversation, when you talk about Supreme Court justices and federal court justices, believe it or not, just because we all know that this is the right thing to do, we have to make certain that it is grounded in something that is legally acceptable and that, if challenged, can be supported. And so kudos to all the work that the Chamber is doing nationally and here locally. You've heard us all sort of make reference to the resolution that was recently passed here about the first steps of making certain that we can acknowledge and recognize and create a program here to support the LGBTQ community. But essentially, the certification on some level is about making certain that it's grounded in something challenge, because it will come as no surprise to anyone that when folks are accustomed to having it all to themselves and having it a certain way, that they're willing to spend a lot of energy, time, and money to fight change. We won't judge their heart or pretend to know their hearts, but change is hard when you're on the side of being benefited by the status quo. And so the certification, the programs themselves are based in ensuring that it's the reason why private sector, have a certification, don't have a certification, you walk in, you say you're whatever you are, they're good because no one's going to, because they're not government entities, people don't challenge their programs because they're not spending taxpayer dollars. But the certification program puts us all in the best position to be able to defend having these types of programs. I think the other thing that's worth noting is that at the end of the day, the certification is a tool and a resource. It's a tool and a resource. Nothing more painful than to hear someone say, I got certified and I've been waiting on my contract and it never came. It's not coming because the certification itself is not the magic wand. The magic wand is that if you have a government entity that recognizes the importance of having goals and that those goals recognize the certification, and again, I'm about to tie it all together, we talk about those strategic efforts so that once you have a program, once you've been certified, once there are goals that say we need X% of folks who are certified to be counted towards this solicitation and this spend, that you are then prepared with certification in hand, goals assigned, opportunities identified to jump in and to submit proposals and bids on opportunities that are available. It's really about leveling the playing field. So I think one of the big, when I talked about action items and takeaways, is that it's really important, especially for small and medium-sized business owners. Look, the big boys have whole departments of people who do nothing but business development, right? You get some really bright young person right out of college who doesn't really know what they want to do, but they got a good skill set. You pay them $40,000 a year. You stick them in a room with a computer and you say, go find the opportunities. Go figure out how I win work at the city, at CTA, at CMS. Small and medium-sized businesses don't have that same capacity You know, as an owner, what you know is not only are you doing business development, you are HR, you are the accountant, you are out there doing the work. And so one of the things that I think we have to do in terms of an action item and being strategic with is making certain that we're helping you do the business development of figuring out how to do business with us. And so full circle to this concept of why get certified, it is one of the many pieces to moving the ball that we talked about. And something that someone in my office said recently when we started talking about budget cuts and things that were coming up, and they were like, it's just not fair. And what just about everyone on this phone call knows is that that ship sailed a long time ago. What's fair? But what's fair isn't just going to happen. It's work and it's effort and it's strategy and it's having a plan and it's having action items. And so in my mind, what's really critical is that people think of the certification as a tool, a piece of the puzzle of how we collectively move the needle and the arrow on this. And so there's a lot of other smaller details of what it means. But I think for me, the big takeaway that I want people to think about it is that it's a tool, it's a resource to help you get the attention of and to open the door, get the goals set, and then make certain that you're uniquely ready to and prepared to compete for the opportunities.
And I'll add to the element that was perfectly said. I need to record that and just play it for people when they ask, so what's this all about? More importantly, yeah, or additionally, I should say, is contracting is one of many things you can build with that tool in your toolkit. And getting certified is, especially in the LGBT community, essential for two main doors that it opens. One, opportunity. And I don't just mean contracts, but I also mean scholarships to things like the Tuck School of Business, where they only work with certified minority-owned companies, including LGBTs. There are financial programs from some of the big banks, even from the government, the SBA and others, because remember, there's other programs out there, even if we're not federally recognized as a minority class as LGBT people. Yet another reason why votes matter is there is still programming out there for things like disadvantaged business enterprises, the DBE or EBE in some places, for socioeconomically disadvantaged communities. Well, here we are. And your LGBTBE certification not only proves that you are what your business says you are because you've done all the thorough paperwork, but it also proves that you fall into a category that is historically discriminated against, and you can use it for federal and state disadvantage applications. So while we're working to get, we've already got plans in motion in Chicago and hopefully statewide in Illinois, while we're getting there, don't wait. Don't let somebody else take your opportunity. Use that certification to kick those doors open. Get those scholarships, get those training programs. There are mentorship programs that are just supplier to supplier, and you've got to be certified to get in them. And Jaemie is your key through what the LGBT certification can do to open doors for you locally. But there's also other diverse communities. Remember, you've done all that paperwork. So if you've done LGBTBE certification, but you're also a woman looking to become WeBank or women certified through the city, 98% of the paperwork you've needed to turn in has already been completed. So use that to help create that kind of reciprocity and just cut the red tape. Shannon, you said it so perfectly about we're all busy being business owners, especially the small growing ones. Help yourself. You've already done the hard work. That's what we're trying to do, is cut this red tape. It's why we're trying to make sure these certifications count for city and state programs, because you've already done the hard part of the social contract. So now let us step up and help you apply it. The other big thing to remember too is data, and more data. When you're working with women, minority-owned, disability, veterans, et cetera, these are all communities that can be tracked. LGBTQ status cannot be tracked yet because we are not a federally protected class. Even when you answer the census, unless you're a committed couple, there aren't other ways to talk about your gender identity or expression or sexual orientation. So your certification, your LGBTBE certification they get from NGLCC, which is free to you as a member of your local chamber, helps us tell the government, Here's who you are and what you do. We didn't just make up that $1.7 trillion figure. We got there using math, by looking at the number of businesses, what they contribute, the number of employees they have, all of the things that we know from the data that we collect when certifying a business, which is pretty darn rigorous and comprehensive. That's why the governments trust it. But it's also so important that you're helping us tell the story to the naysayers who think, oh, after marriage equality, didn't you all get everything you came for? Well, remember, for the fact that Illinois is one of the 35 states in the country where, yes, I can get married there, but it is perfectly legal for a bank manager to say, we don't give money to your kind. 35 states in the country do not have banking laws that protect LGBTQ people, but we all know we need it to succeed by getting credit and access to capital. So it's the number one thing all of our businesses need. And your certification helps you go to a bank and say, I've been vetted. You can trust what my business is and does because I've got the paperwork to prove it. So do it for you and do it for the community.
Really quickly, John, can you remind the audience who currently accepts the LGBT certification and where you are with the municipalities?
Awesome, happy to. So name the Fortune 500, they're taking it. And if they're not, they're working on it. And that's particularly important because a lot of you know, as we always have talked about in at previous summits with the Illinois Chamber, we've talked about, using your dollar as a point of advocacy. Supporting I won't name names, but not all chicken nuggets taste the same. Some taste like they hate you. So why would you spend money there? Same with the hotels and airlines and everything else. Check things like the HRC Quality Index. Check your local LGBT chamber. Are these corporations standing with us and our other minority partners? Do they have a great track record supporting Black Lives Matter or women's issues or whatever? So all that to say, your corporation should have your back. And if not, let's get them there. So the corporations are there and there's more coming to the table every day. For governments statewide, you've got California, Pennsylvania, and Massachusetts with about a half dozen more all working on legislation as we speak, including New York, New Jersey, Wisconsin, Delaware. Just yesterday, I met with Governor Brown's team in the state of Oregon. We are rocking and rolling on statewide inclusion. But while we're doing that, just in the last 3 years that I've been working on our public sector advocacy, we've added 28 major cities, including Chicago, LA, Baltimore, Miami, Orlando, Nashville, Louisville, Kentucky, which you want to talk about a city that is in need of equity and representation. This is a time where we are making sure that LGBT Black business owners are front and center in procurement in the city of Louisville, along with everywhere else. So I encourage everyone to go to NGLCC.org and you can find the list of public sector entities currently taking it by clicking the corporate partners page, and you'll click here to see our government procurement partners as well. And if you ever have questions, reach out to us at info@nglcc.org. Like I said, even if they're not immediately taking the LGBTVE certification one-on-one, one-to-one as we're doing with Chicago, for example, what we want to see happen is helping you apply it for the EBE, the disadvantaged, the other SBA 8A, all of these things, the acronyms I'm throwing out here. But there are so many ways where your existing certification can get you in the door. And after that, we will help you, and all the partners here on this call will help you build that capacity, build your back office so it's as strong as your front office is, and that you win that work.
Thank you so much, Jonathan. Just for the sake of time, we have about 14 minutes left. I'm going to do a little combination of some of the questions that's coming in the inbox and kind of marry them to some remaining questions. So good point, Shannon. We realize that certification is not the end all, right? It is one of the many components to show and convey capacity to get your foot in the door. But we know that you as a business owner still have accountability and responsibility to make sure that your business is sustainable. Otherwise, to be able to perform on these contracts, certified or not, right? So that said, we have to build relationships. We have to do the part of how do we go out and get these contracts? Again, certification or not, how do we go out and get these contracts? What leads us to building relationships. So this question is kind of twofold or two-part. how do you build relationships and sell to government or public or private agencies in general, but more specifically through COVID, right? How do I warm a relationship up via Zoom? I can compliment Shannon all day long, but there may be something missing via Zoom. How do we facilitate and keep our business sustainable throughout this pandemic? Pedro, you want to take a stab at this one?
Yeah, that's a really good question, because I mean, during these times, you don't know how to make those relationships, right? I mean, we're all basically in home, stuck, don't know how to make relationships, don't know how to communicate with others. So one thing that we try to do is push for, I know that the states sometimes have pre-bid conferences. So pre-bid conferences is one of those things that you probably want to partake in, because that's giving you the option of learning what the contract's looking for, what the prime's looking for. And now with this whole, digital age of things going virtual, some of those pre-bid conferences are being done online. So just the last 2 days, we attended a pre-bid conference with DCFS. The funny thing is that they did it both ways. So they did it in person, obviously, trying to be respectful with the guidelines, COVID guidelines. But they also were doing it through Zoom, through WebEx. So when they post that information on what we have is a procurement bulletin board, that's where the vendors can go and see what kind of postings, what kind of procurement opportunities are available. You will have that option of wanting to attend those pre-bid conferences. And in those pre-bid conferences, you will have the information or contact information of those key players. So that's one way of partaking into trying to gain some kind of communication or some type of partnership. You can directly contact these prime vendors and try to find out more information. Like, hey, what are you looking for? It's not looked down upon. It's actually encouraged to directly contact these prime vendors and say, hey, what are you guys looking for? What can I offer? Things like that. I mean, that's a way of opening up that door. To build a relationship. So in this day and age, obviously, virtual is the way to go. And I think going forward, expect that. So try to, expect on trying to jump on those virtual pre-bid conferences and see how you can gain a relationship and how you can, more than anything, establish a communication with those prime vendors and maybe even subcontractors who are going to be there so you can pair up with, that's always key. I mean, I heard right now that, partnering up is really important. And that's one of the main things that a lot of subcontractors can do to partake in these bids. So, going forward, I think, in the whole virtual space, you definitely want to start building your rapport with technology and see how you can use a virtual communication to your advantage. Because that's definitely the key and that's definitely the way to go. So that's one way that I tend to encourage our vendors.
Hey, Pedro, you mentioned, thank you for those comments. You mentioned a great point of, trying to get in contact with the primes and calling on them and seeing what opportunities they may have. I think one thing to consider is that all of these agencies, of course, public agencies, have public data, right? And this public data, as Jonathan mentioned, can help better position you to win and have better conversations with these folks. In procurement space, and I can probably speak for everyone else on the panel, I can't tell you how many times a day that I'm told I'm MBE certified or WBE certified. How can I do business with this agency, right? Mm-hmm. Sorry, I lost my thought there. Because it was a question coming in. Use this public data. Go out there and look on the City of Chicago database. Look up previously awarded contracts. See who were the awardees on those contracts. Those are the primes. If they got their contract, perhaps they may be interested in pursuing additional contracts in the future. Build the relationships before the opportunities come to paper, right? Because at that point, folks have built teams, relationships. They're going to the table already solid. You want to take the opportunity and do your homework now, particularly during this pandemic when things are a little bit more quiet. Here's the time to work on your certification. Here's your time to work on your market research with this free very, very free public data that, again, you can use buy-in plans. What's coming out in the next 6 to 12 months? City of Chicago is amazing with putting out an 18-month outlook. And I'm sorry, Shannon, for stealing your show. I'm sure you're going to mention this. But the buy-in plan, looking at what's coming up in 12 months. Hey, I have an eye on this. What resources, what do I need to be prepared for this 12 months down the line? I need a partner. I need a prime partner. I need capital. I need a capability statement. I need all of these things that you can start preparing for, so that when those solicitations come down the line, you're much more prepared. I had a couple of questions regarding how does the LGBT certification align with some of the public agencies. I think Shannon and Jonathan both mentioned there has been some progress with consideration for the LGBT certification on the government level, but not yet have been solidified. So currently, CTA, we only accept what's called the Disadvantaged Business Enterprise, DBE. That is for social and economically disadvantaged businesses. So the ethnic groups, 5 ethnic groups are protected, women, as well as a personal net worth threshold that can surpass, I think, $2.3 million. So while we don't have that particular certification yet, we are a hybrid of a federal agency and local agency. We hope that we will adopt it at some point, but meanwhile, if there's a category within the DBE certification, as well as, and I think the question was also pointed to you, Pedro, with the state of Illinois, it will probably be very similar without the economic threshold for the state of Illinois.
If I can kind of just elaborate on that a little bit more, I know, and I mentioned before in the beginning, one thing I really want to push for, and it's something that's been brought up on us, and we do want to support as much as possible. It's like, if you're looking for certification as an LGBTQ, I recommend you pushing your legislators. I think that's the best thing you could do.
We're working on it.
Yeah, push the legislators. That's the main thing you want to do, because that's the way that you can get on board with that certification on the Illinois state level. So definitely do that. If we can be of your, push encouragement, your cheerleaders, let us know what to do, and we will definitely go that way. So.
Got it. We're gonna go another 3 minutes and then we'll close out. Shannon, any final thoughts or golden nuggets for the audience today?
Absolutely. Well, you hit on one, and I tried to share it in the chat. I think with government, it's really important to know the business of what that particular government entity is looking for. And to Jaemie's excellent point, differently than the private sector, all of our information, there's very little that you can't get from us. Even if it's not available online, you can avail yourself of the Freedom of Information Act, and you can get documents that can give you unbelievable insight into the contracts that are currently in place. Quite frankly, you can even do a Freedom of Information Act request to see bids of what the competition presented on previous opportunities. They certainly redact those things that are proprietary, but you can do so much of the background work to get yourself prepared. And so I think the biggest nugget is, and I'm gonna drop several links in the chat here, is to avail yourself of those resources. If you haven't, or if you are not, certainly support the chamber, be a member, get certified through the chamber and the programs that they offer and have, as well as, tap into your contacts and the resources that you have to ask questions. Because here's what I'm gonna tell you. You could be Einstein at what you do. I assure you that somewhere there is some function of a document of mine that only people in the city of Chicago or who have done this work will know what it means. The example I give all the time is that if there's a little red ball in the center of the table and I'm calling it an apple and you're calling it a tomato, and it takes you a year to figure out, that the thing you've been asking for, no one's been responding to because you were calling it an apple and we call it a tomato, you've wasted a whole year. Take advantage of having access to people like Pedro, Jaemie, Jonathan, and Jeremy to that that business development piece that I said. There really are no bad questions when it comes to government procurement. If in doubt, or if you need help or direction, please avail yourself of the many resources that the government agencies offer, because it's not always intuitive, unfortunately, for myriad of reasons, but we are here to sort of help you navigate that piece of it. So.
Thank you, Shannon. And thank you, Jonathan and Pedro. What a wonderful panel today for the audience. I hope you all got some golden nuggets. I hope that you understand a little bit more about public procurement. And I hope that you leverage the contacts of the panelists here. We're here to support you. We're also advocates of the small business community. And so I hope that you all enjoy the rest of the today's festivities with the 2020 Illinois LGBTQ Business Summit. And I will turn it over to Jeremy.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Jaemie, we'll definitely have you back moderating some conversations in the future. That was a wonderful, wonderful job. I took away some really great information. So I hope everyone else took some notes and are ready to move forward with working with all these great partners, these government entities, and really everyone else who's trying to do business with you. I love the focus on encouraging people to team, to collaborate, to partner. That really is the name of the game as we continue to move forward. So I definitely encourage everyone to consider that as an option as we move forward from here. A huge thank you again to Jaemie, Pedro, Jonathan, and Shannon for joining us and all of the great information that you've shared today and just throughout this entire process. Shannon did share the link, and she just shared it again to the three times to the LGBT Biz survey. So if you've not already taken it, please follow it right now, put it to the side, encourage all of your LGBT business owners, friends, to complete that survey before the day is over, sooner than later. So thank you all so much. You do see, I'm going to drop the link again in the chat box for our next session. I will see you there. We will probably get started with that session at about 2:02, 2:03. So feel free to take a short break and we'll look forward to seeing you there. So thanks everyone, and see you back in just a second.
Great job, Jaemie. Thanks, everybody. Good to see you all.
Thank you, guys.
Guys.